So with our lovely Miss P, ready cuteness? I wanted to try and work a little bit with our up-down game. So up-down, in the beginning, I just go ahead and plant the food right in front of your feet. I have a couple targets, yes, that I'm using just to visually help myself and the puppy, yes. So what the up-down game consists of, it is one of those pattern games. You're looking for the pup to give you eye contact, and when they do, you'd go ahead and put the food right in front of your feet. And the point is then when they look up, then you feed for the down. So you're feeding when the puppy is looking up, you'd mark that moment, and then feed for the floor. So that way she has the chance to disengage, to pop back up and find your face. So ready? So we would again, and technically right there, yes. So I don't really care where she is in the environment. The main goal is for the up down. You're feeding for while the puppy is giving you eyes up here, and then you feed the floor so you can get them to disengage and try the pattern again. Both the girls, as I mentioned prior, are a little bit more unsure today than usual. And I feel that it's again been due to the noise distractions. Ready, Pepper? So I'm going to see if I can get Miss P's attention. So sometimes the little breadcrumb trail is something that I'll bust out. This would not be to bring her closer to something scary. So if let's say there was some crazy noises going on this side, right now it's just the big train going by, the cargo train, then I wouldn't necessarily do the breadcrumb trail luring my puppy to the spooky. Ready? So I'm going to try again by planting the food on the floor first, see if Miss P looks up at me. I would go yes, and then feed again on the floor. So this is the up-down game, yes. The next one that I was hoping to do with her is the ping pong. So when she looks at me, I go yes, and I plant the food to the left or the right of her, and I'd be looking for those eyes on me again, and then plant the food again left or right. But for Miss P and Miss M, I think today is going to be sadly one of those off days where we're not feeling quite as cozy. So just like I mentioned earlier, sometimes lowering the criteria, working little bits of maybe what you were hoping to practice could be another option. Ready, Peps? So we'll do a little find it right there. There's some more funny noises. So again, if your babes are ever having a harder time, try to again go back to a simpler version. So maybe I'll do a little look and then yes to feed. Again, look and then yes to feed again. Look. But remember that if sometimes your babe isn't able to handle a certain item or a certain situation, try to always bounce back to either a softer bubble where they were successful, or sometimes you just have to call it, quits and be like, you know what, we're going to try this, but maybe in the home, or we're going to try this, but lower the expectation for how difficult or how refined the skill might be. Miss P says, I just want to go back to my cool chew items and take a nap. The girls are so pooped out. Do you want to try a little bit of playing, Miss P? I think play sounds like a lot more fun. She's like, yes, ma'am. So remember, training should be fun. If, again, it's too much work, and what I mean by that is not that we don't want to work basic skills and get our girls comfortable doing certain behaviors and certain skill sets, but if our babes are at times struggling because of the dynamic, that's where I would sort of tweak it and then go back to something that might be simpler. So if sometimes we could go, okay, we tried a few up downs, we tried a teeny bit with the ping pong game, but now we're going to go into doing some play. And then play could be maybe a better venue for building up comfort in this novel bubble than working those other skills prior. So I don't want to make this too hard where Miss P can't catch her critter. There we go. She's like, I gotcha, sir. But I would highly recommend rotate. I know we did this a little bit last time on Tuesday too for the lovely ladies, is rotating through play, grabbing for items. But if, again, we're really having moments where it's not as successful, keep the session short and sweet. So right now, Miss P is doing a great job engaging. There are some good noises. There's the saw is being used right now in the other room, or some sort of machinery. There was the train that went by, the big cargo train a few moments ago. So you guys may have moments where, yes, at home, it's more of a vacuum where there's less going on, but I would highly recommend check out the Spotify playlist. I know I keep harping on it, but that's because if we don't actually practice, how are the babes going to get better while still being under threshold? So if the only way we practice is when we're out in the yard and the puppy is failing and we're getting agitated or whatever it might be, leash wedgie, then that would be a moment where your babe is not being set up for success. They're just being set up to practice or rehearse that same skill once more. And it doesn't mean that you're trying to do anything wrong at your end, but sometimes what could be happening, as opposed to rehearsing the skills prior to needing them, we try to work them in the exact moment we would like it to be refined and to perfection. So if like our puppy, like Miss M, is struggling with door thresholds, that would be something where we'd want to practice with setups that are not instantly outdoors. You know, for Miss P, if noises are really hard, or even Miss M is dealing with noise sensitivity, work with the Spotify playlist and see what sounds on there are not acceptable for starters. And I'm not saying to, like, if your puppy is overwhelmed by doorbells, you instantly go right into playing doorbell noises and then wonder why your puppy is well over their threshold or capability. But maybe you start off with wind chimes, something that is not as difficult for your pup, and you pair wind chimes with Find It's with Cheese. You could also pair the wind chimes with doing a frozen snack, or maybe a tug time, or maybe playing with the flirt pole, and we have a few sounds playing and you build it up that way. Like right now, there is the machinery going on in the background and Miss P is still playing. So she's actually become more resilient with the practice. I know for Miss M, this is only her third day. Pepper's been coming for weeks now for obviously classes, but also for the doggy day school and for the structured play. So we may find, and she's like, no, I'm going to bring it with me. Ready? You're doing such a good job. Is if your girls are, again, needing little recesses throughout your practice, perfectly normal. But if you're finding that most of your training is mostly practicing, like I mentioned, the set of lights, you have your green, yellow, and red. If most of your practice takes place only in green, which could be inside your home or certain sections of your yard, and then you mostly go from that right into red, then that means your babe is more than likely not able to handle that big of a jump from really easy to super challenging. So that's why creating that setup of, okay, what's in the green environment, what's doing really well for green skill sets or abilities, and then what would be yellow, where things get a little bit more uncomfortable, but they're still functional, there's still a bounce back. And then what would be considered red? Where does my puppy falter? Where do they shut down? Where do they not take food or understand the cue that I'm working on? So definitely setting up that green, yellow, and red setup might be another good way to see progression that otherwise you maybe missed out on those smaller windows to notice change. But we'll give both our girls, nice job, Miss P, a little breather from some of this practice and work a few more skills. But remember that if you're really struggling with something, don't feel you can't check in and reach out for questions or concerns. But I'd say both the lovelies did very, very nicely for their last day of today's round of doggy day school. So we'll give the girls a little break. Miss P's going to go grab a drink of water, but super job for the ladies.